was one of those things. I was at Ring of Honor, Death Before Honor, fantastic show. I'll ask you a little bit about it more, but I went with a couple of buddies who were not intimate wrestling fans. So they were like, you know what, I'll do picks. And they were asking like me to set odds on the show. So you can see how it can drum up that engagement. And it speaks to the ever-changing landscape of pro wrestling. I have to ask you, obviously, a huge change in wrestling this week on the WWE side of things. Vince McMahon retires, step downs, however you want to describe it. But for you guys, obviously, as you know, the other main wrestling promotion here stateside, really worldwide, how, if at all, does that change things for you?
Well, it's going to change the competition, but I think that's a good thing. AEW's got a big fan base, as you said. We're on in 130 countries now around the world. And here in the US, we've built a great fan base. Wednesday nights on TBS, Friday nights on TNT. And the competition's going to change. It's a different person in the chair opposite me, but I don't think that's going to be a bad thing for the wrestling fans necessarily.
And also, I mean, realistically, you are equally, if not more, familiar with that competition, obviously from the Wednesday Night Wars. I think the interesting thing is something that you've openly said is at times you've been surprised about certain talents you've had the opportunity to sign. Perfect example, brand new tag champs, Swerve and Keith Lee. So is that something in the back of your mind, kind of who could become available and maybe who you need to make sure is shirt up and locked down and are with AEW long term?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always been a concern, but now probably more so than ever, I imagine that the great wrestlers are going to be in demand. And I think, again, this is probably going to be good for the wrestling fans because that's one of the most exciting things about pro wrestling is free agency. And it's one of those things that was really missing from the sport for almost 2 decades before AEW came in because there was not a legitimate competitor in the free agent market. And now there is. So I think it's going to be exciting times ahead, hopefully for many years to come. One of the worst things that happened, I think, in American sports in my lifetime was when WCW closed down. And there should always be another national wrestling company. And it's really great having it on TNT and TBS every week. TBS in particular has been the home of pro wrestling now for 50 years. And going back to the early 1970s, it had been a fixture there. And in 2001, when TBS and TNT canceled pro wrestling, I worked. And now it's great having AEW back every week, Wednesday nights on TBS and Friday nights on TNT.